fiscal years ago?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, it looks like Republicans also had the high point on your chart right over here.
Right.
In, I guess it's fiscal 2006.
Yes.
So the new reforms that the Democratic leadership put into place has cut quite a bit, but not the half that they promised.
Right. Oh, we give them credit for the transparency. We agree there certainly is a lower number, and I think the members here are certainly aware that we were tough on the Republicans when they were going from a small number to a larger number over that period of time. I mean, the facts are the facts. You can see where it went. So they certainly get some credit. We would have certainly liked to have seen them adopt more reforms. We think more should be adopted. But yes, there is progress in the dollar amount, not in the number of projects. And we'd certainly like to see them do more. I think there's pressure, again, to drop this number below the $17.2 billion this year.
Can I address that?
Yes.
I'm not here to absolve Republicans. I mean, we built earmarks into what it is, really. When you look, we were in control from 94 through 96, or 2006, and earmarks shot up during that time. Having said that, what bothers me is for those who this year are taking credit for a drop. 2005, the spike in earmarks was largely a result of TLU, the transportation bill. That's when we reauthorized, and there were some 6,300 projects in there, including the Bridge to Nowhere. So that's partially the reason for the spike. Like I said, that doesn't say much for Republicans. We've been awful at this. But the notion that people are patting themselves on the back for having a decrease in dollar value or number of earmarks, when if you take TLU out, this would be higher than any other year by far. It's just, it's claiming a little too much credit. And also I should say that, the Democrats, I applauded the rule that they put in place in January, or last January. I thought it was, in fact, a little better than we'd done as Republicans the previous fall. But rules are only as good as your willingness to enforce them. And the rules that have been there in terms of airdropped earmarks or bringing bills to the floor and giving members time to take the intelligence authorization bill, for example. We didn't get the list of earmarks until after the deadline to submit earmarks for amendment. And so there have been games that have been played, and frequently you've had instances where the chairman of the committee has submitted a statement saying there are no earmarks in this bill, which means we can't challenge any earmarks in the bill, when other members have already claimed credit for earmarks in the bill. And so clearly the rules that are in place aren't strong enough to affect the process.
Just to make sure the record's straight here, I do think the question is good, and that I believe one of the main reasons we lost the majority in 2006 was the number of earmarks and the related spending that went along with it. But the drop in earmarks in 2007 was not a Democrat initiative. There were a few Republicans who stopped a major omnibus bill and forced them into a continuing resolution the next year, which is responsible for the drop. And the transparency, at least on the Senate side, Harry Reid tried to table that. We got a few Democrats to vote with all of the Republicans to actually push that through, and a lot of the initiative on transparency on the House side has, so we're not going to sit still for the Dems taking credit. They tried to push an omnibus through in 2007 that would have eclipsed what you see on that chart. But I think what we've seen, a lot of us as Republicans, is we squandered an opportunity in the majority to do a lot of the reforms that we'd talked about for many years. And part of that was the lack of discipline due to earmarks. And we're here today because we want to get it back, and we want to re-earn the trust of the American people. And part of that is putting an end to this pig book. And so we're going to keep up the fight. We're going to re-earn the trust of the American people. And hopefully you'll see at the end of the year, while the Democrats may take credit for it, it's going to be those of us standing up here today that actually make it happen.
John Campbell, California again, and just wanted to point out one other little thing. When we looked at, Tom mentioned that we now have a lot of names on things in this book, and let's remember why. That's because a group of us standing up here made a stand on the House floor and used a bunch of procedural things, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, one morning, David Obey and the Democratic leadership agreed that they would disclose everything. And prior to that, the Chairman Obey, the Appropriations Committee, had said, don't worry, I'll take all the 31,000 requests and we'll look at them all, and we in the Appropriations Committee will decide what's good and what's bad, and we'll just put it in there, and don't worry, it will all be scrutinized. Well, that's great, but it should be scrutinized. This is a public entity of the Congress, and it should be scrutinized by the public. So let's not forget why we have that disclosure today. It's because of a group of Republicans who made a stand on the floor. Now, I'm not trying to apologize for the sins of the Republicans in this book or the Republican leadership in the past. Not doing that. Just saying that this has been a fight against whoever is in charge, whether it was Republicans in charge or Democrats in charge, because whoever is in charge appears to have the ability to take the taxpayers' money and spend it on stuff like this, and the taxpayers don't want it, and that's what we've got to stop.
And we don't care who takes credit. We just want to see more reforms. So. Yes, sir.
Hi. Just wondering if you could say a few words about the fact that in your report, small states tend to come out on top. They tend to get the most money. Is this equitable?
Well, it's a matter of the members of the Appropriations Committee. It's not as much whether it's a small state or a big state, but since the members of the Appropriations Committee have been on the committee for so long, they tend to get more of these projects. Senator Stevens, I think Alaska's been #1 every year since 1999, and Hawaii has been either 2 or 3 since then. In fact, before the election in 2006, there was a story about Senators Stevens and Inouye more or less saying they didn't care much about who won the election, which party won. They were going to continue business as usual on the Appropriations Committee, and that meant dividing it up 55-45, 60-40. So that's why those states tend to be in these lists. And some years it's not even a matter of the per capita numbers. In some years, the state of Alaska has taken the top dollars, period. In one year, I believe it was almost $1,000 per person. I believe that was 2006 or 2005. That's a lot of money for one state for these kinds of projects. So that's why you'll see these numbers, and people can sort it any way they want. But the identification of those this year that receive the most dollars clearly follows the Appropriations Committee. Whether they're a small state or a big state, they sit there and they have the last opportunity to add projects to those bills. Any other questions? Thank you all very much for joining us today, and thank you again to members.
Good job. Well done.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thank you. Congressman. John, thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, you're good to see you.
Nobody feels it's their responsibility.
No, exactly. No, you're right. And this has been the discussion for now almost 6 months.